Okay, it's the next day. I stayed here last night cleaning this carburetor out, so I wanted to get a fresh start on it this morning. So we're just going to jump right into this and reassemble this carburetor. I'll show you how to do that right now. Alright, here's the carburetor body that's been thoroughly cleaned. We're going to start at the top and we're just going to work our way down. Alright, put that down over here. First you got the umbrella seal slide, and there's a pin which is that goes through the middle. It is fixed. There's no clip you could change the position on for emissions reasons. That goes in first. Then this goes on top. I usually take a pair of needle nose, grab it because it's got a little hex on there. Grab it, drop it down inside. Give it a turn. It'll lock in. Keep that pin from falling out. And then I take it, grab the carburetor, and it has a little tab cut out here on the top of the carburetor, which corresponds with the little tab sticking out on the umbrella slide. So put that down in there, and then I'll take my index finger just underneath that. Make sure that pin goes down in the center. Just underneath that, I'll hold this down in so it doesn't push all the way through. I'll set this gasket correctly. So it sits all the way around. Install my spring. This also has a tab on it too. Corresponds with that little rubber tab. Push the spring while holding the slide up with your finger. Put it in, and then I grab it with the top of my thumb just like that. Then I'll go through and I will install the screws. This one goes over here because it has the tab for holding the throttle sensor. Give it a quick, not really super tight, just enough to get these ones started. Notice I'm still holding the top down and holding the slide up with my finger. Alright. Get these all set down. And release. Now you know if you got it right, the slide will pop up and down, no problem. Tighten them all down. Alright, now your wire goes through there and kind of gets folded over. Not too worried about that. Got your choke. Install your choke. Should just slide right easily in there, and then with your fingers you can spin that on down. You shouldn't have to force this. Should just go as easy as that. Just keep spinning it down until it seats. My 10mm. It's plastic. Don't try to tighten it too tight. Just snug it down. It should be fine. Alright. So now we got that installed. Now we'll go underneath here and we'll install main jet. And there's the pin that goes through. So see that? It goes right through. Drop that down on there. Don't force anything. Install your pilot jet. Screw that down. Main jet. Make sure that's good. Now you got your fuel mixer screw. That hides up in this area here. Underneath this, there's a washer, a O-ring, and another metal washer. They're very tiny. They stayed up inside there. No reason to take those out. The only thing you really want to take out is this fuel enrichment screw. Make sure you don't bend the tip on here. It's very fragile. Got the spring. Put the spring on there like so. Drop it in. Now I have a special tool that I made. It's just a scrap piece of material. I drilled a hole in it and then tap the edge down to make it like a D shape, which this is, and that turns it all the way down in. Turn this fuel screw all the way in. Just barely let it, finger tight, just let it seat. And before I took this apart, and anytime you take any fuel mixer screws out, you should always drive them all the way in until they seat. Count how many times you turned it in. So when you get to this stage, you know exactly where to set it. And what I counted when I took it apart was it was 2 full turns. So I got it here. Here's 1, 2. Set. All right. So now that we got that set, we can put the float in. Here's the float. Here's the needle. Make sure this little button here moves on top. It should move freely. You insert it into this groove. Drop the whole assembly down in, making sure that that stays in that groove, which it didn't. There we go. We got it at that time. Take your pin, pivot pin. Slide that through. That should go in through both sides, just that easy. Finger. And make sure the actuation works correctly. And that little spring that I showed you, that's what that part is right there. So that just shows that it's actually working. All right, so now we got this all tied together. Let's put this off to the side for a second. All right, so now we have the float bowl, and we're going to reassemble the accelerator pump. Take the accelerator pump plunger, slide that through. Make sure you line up these tabs. Tabs are all lined up. Install the spring in your accelerator pump cover. These tabs should correspond the tabs in the float bowl, and then insert your screws. Let's get them started. Tighten them down. And it's really stiff. But you know, I use a pair of pliers and I'll push on this pin. Just make sure it's gonna work. And then you can even add like some of your old carburetor cleaner, and you should see bubbles. I don't know if it's picking up on camera here, but it should come out this little surface right here. Now you know that your accelerator pump is working and pumping properly. And this is just carb clean. Nothing that's going to hurt anything. Alright, once you're satisfied that that's working correctly, I'll take and put the rubber boot on. Make sure you slide it through the hole at the top, and then attach it down at the bottom, just like so. Okay, so now we got the accelerator pump all assembled in the float bowl. We're going to assemble the whole thing together, noting on which side that you have your accelerator pump on here. So just drop that on there. Make sure you have your gasket on the bowl. Set that in there. Drop these 4 screws in. Tighten these down, finger tight. We get all of them seated. Check around your edges, make sure your gasket is seated. Just look in these areas here, 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 and in the front. Everything looks good. Now you can cinch everything down. All right, so next we got to assemble our, it's like a power valve. So we're going to put this pin side down, make sure it sits in the cover correctly. We have our spring, we have our guide on the underside that will fit into. We have our 2 screws right here. So put this, make sure that's sitting in the center correctly and flush. Now this spring's got a little more tension than the other ones you've dealt with so far. So they're kind of tricky holding everything down and in place nice. There we go. Get this one on there. Yeah, because you got to get this cover on here first before you try to attach the accelerator pump arm, because it attaches right here, and if you don't have this lined up right, no, it'd just be in the way. It's just easier to do it this way. Okay, and the last is the pivot arm for the accelerator pump. It's got the spring on it. This didn't need to be disassembled in the process, but there is the special bolt, collar, plastic washer. Now the collar goes on the underside, pops in there like so. Top has the plastic washer, goes over the collar, screws together. Got to line them up a little bit. Don't force it. It should just go together just like so. And when you actuate, carburetor should actuate the accelerator pump. I don't know if you're getting that on camera. See how it's pushing that accelerator pump down? Just make sure that that's good and tight. And that's it. You want to put this wire over and hold it over with the strap there. This goes over on this side. This actually could go through, either or. This goes up on the frame, so once you get it all back in there, you kind of see where everything kind of sits and hangs out. So let's go back over to the bike now that this is completely rebuilt, and install it and back into the motorcycle. All right, so we got the carburetor sitting up here. I attached the 2 coolant line hoses off camera because it makes a mess. and still even cleaning up after it. But yeah, those are something you got to do kind of fast, and then trying to teach you about it and tell you whatever, it's not going to work out for me. All right, anyway, so here we are. We got the carburetor mounted or hanging, and I want to reattach my cables. So I stick those down underneath here like so. Twist while holding down. You twist these, put them in the groove. Twist it so the cable sets in. That's one side. Get the other side. And then set in there. Now find your screws. That you took out from before. Just put the one in, get it kind of where it needs to be. Second one, I usually hold my finger on it until I get it started. 2, lock it in, lock it in. All right, now you got your choke cable, goes through. Air lines. All right, got your wire. That's easy enough. You could just plug that in right now. That doesn't matter. Put it up over in the clip. Lock the clip in. Good. Check the throttle. Make sure it's functioning correctly, which it is. Slide the let's see. You slide that through there. And then you got your fuel line that has to go underneath everything. And then you're gonna pop this right into the boot. Boom. Pop right into the boot, just like it was before. All right. And then we'll get this out over here for the choke. I got my other line here that comes through. Just put that back in. Take your long screwdriver, tighten down the clamp. Make sure carburetor's sitting level. Tighten that clamp down. Just good and snug. You got your hose up here for the emissions. That connects in. Should just slide onto the plastic T here. And need a needle nose. Get that all the way seated. And good. That's seated. Alright. That's for the back of the air box. And let's see, we got everything over here. Let's go to the other side real quick. I'll show you how everything lines up over here. You have your choke. There's that fork I was telling you about before. You got your fuel line here. Just snaps into that groove right there. Give that a couple turns. Rubber grommet seats over it. I can't do this one-handed, but I'm going to put a wrench on here to hold that, and then spin this rubber piece right here and tighten that up. It takes like 2 seconds. Okay, now we're back on this side. Clean up a little coolant there. Now we got to add the back side of the air box. Which this is the back side of the air box. No big thrills here. This hose connects on top here. Seats all the way down. You got your idle adjustment cable over here, and then you got the throat carburetor over there. Oh, pop that on, tighten that down, and it has a little collar in there. So once you get to where the collar seats, that's it, it's clamped down. All right, tighten this clamp up too. Now, we have the screws that go into the cylinder here. There's a little thing. I got one on this side. This is all it is. It's just a little rubber metal spacer that goes into a rubber grommet. That just pops in from the back side here. Got your two screws, bolts. Spring in there, one in here. Tighten those down. All right, now I'm gonna tighten these ones down. Here you go. Get your air filter, which has been blown out. Seat that up in there like so. And you take your air cleaner cover. Simply put that on over that. Get one of the screws started. And go around and secure all the rest of them. And just snug these ones down. Slip the idle adjustment cable into the groove. There we go. I have off camera also I did this morning, I replaced the spark plugs. Because whenever you do a carb clean, always change the spark plugs. Because usually people try to run it when it's in the shape it was in, and here's the spark plugs out of it. They're all crusty, dirty, full of carbon. So you try running a brand new clean carburetor on spark plugs like this, you're just asking for trouble. May run a little bit, but it will give you funny running conditions, and you'll think it's something that you did when in fact it's just as simple as replacing the spark plug. Spark plugs are cheap, replace them, and pretty much that will eliminate any issues running condition wise. Alright, so check throttle operation once again. Make sure it's got a little bit of play. You don't want it tight, you need end play from when you're turning the handlebars. If you ever notice, like when you start one up, you know, before you put it in gear, you turn the handlebars to the left and to the right and make sure that there's no cable that's routed wrong or something and it's been stretched. because there's nothing worse than if you're going into a turn thinking everything's all good and the bike automatically accelerates on you from a cable being routed wrong. It could put you in a world of hurt for sure. So keep an eye out for that. Other than that, I guess that completes the carb cleaning aspect of this. I would show you that it runs. I just got to add some oil because I changed the oil due to the carburetor's overflowing. The gasoline goes down into the crankcase, so you have to change your oil too, because you wash out the bearings, you're going to ruin the engine, and it's just all for nothing. So definitely change your oil whenever you do a carb clean. Replace your spark plugs whenever you do a carb clean. Check your operation of your cables when you do a carb clean. All these things really matter to keep yourself safe and keep the engine running for as long as it possibly can. Alright, so I'm going to add some engine oil to this off camera, and when I come back we'll get this thing fired off so you can see how it runs with the new carb clean. Alright, so as you can see, we got everything back together. I put some fuel in it, reserve, got lights, hooked up the battery, new battery put in it. I believe it's a neutral. It's in neutral. Brake lights work. Cool. Alright, I guess give her a shot. Choke's out. Make sure the choke is out. Fuel on, key on, neutral, choke's out. Ignition on. Filled up that accelerator pump. So now when you hit the gas, there's that shot of fuel like I told you. See it hesitate? She needs to run, and when it's smoking as bad as it is, I'd rather have it run outside instead of filling up my shop and filling up the neighbor shops and stuff. So we'll just leave it at that. We'll call that a win. And bring her outside. We'll get her warmed up, take her for a ride around the block, and then see what happens with it. On down the road, the guy just is around the corner, so I'm sure he'll come back and tell me if there's any issues with it. But I don't think he'll have any problems. So that's it on the 750C. The Shadow Spirit, or the Shadow Aero 750C 2006. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them below, and we'll see you next time, I guess. All right, have a good day.